I used to think money was just a tool, something straightforward and manageable, a means to live a decent life and maybe enjoy a little extra here and there. Now, money feels like a weight pressing down on my chest every single day, a constant reminder that I'm caught in a cycle I can't break free from. I'm 27, and the financial pressure I live with isn't just about numbers. It's about how those numbers shape my life, my choices, my mental health, and the dreams I keep pushing further and further away. When I got my first real job after college, I believed things would get better. I'd pay off my student loans, build a savings account, maybe travel or buy nice things occasionally. Instead, what happened was the cost of living began to outpace my income almost immediately. Rent went up, groceries got pricier, bills climbed, and it felt like no matter how hard I worked, the gap between what I earned and what I needed to survive kept growing wider. It's maddening, honestly. Every month, I make these impossible decisions. Do I pay the electricity bill in full or save some money to put gas in my car? Do I buy a few vegetables or hold on to that money in case my car breaks down again? Some days, I skip meals or eat less just to stretch what I have. I know that sounds dramatic, but that's reality. These choices chip away at your dignity and leave you feeling small, like you're barely surviving instead of truly living. The system feels like it's built to keep people like me stuck. Wages are stagnant, but everything else keeps climbing: rent, healthcare, insurance, student debt, interest. I'm working harder than ever, but it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm just not smart enough to figure out how to get ahead. But deep down, I know it's bigger than me. It's a broken economic environment where the rules aren't made for the little guy to win. Emotionally, the weight of this constant financial pressure is exhausting. It breeds anxiety and shame. I catch myself feeling jealous when friends talk about vacations or new gadgets or even just eating out without thinking twice. I want to celebrate their good fortune, but sometimes it just hurts. I don't tell many people how tight things really are. There's a stigma around money struggles, like admitting it means you've failed somehow. So I smile, I make jokes, I downplay it, but inside, the worry never leaves. Social life has suffered too. I decline invitations because even a small expense feels like a risk. I miss spontaneous nights out, catching up over coffee, or going to events that cost money. Instead, I find myself withdrawing, retreating into a quieter life where the budget is manageable but the loneliness is real. I know this isolation isn't healthy, but the financial constraints make it feel like the only option. I cope by setting tiny goals, cutting expenses, tracking every dollar, hunting for deals. It's not glamorous, but it's what keeps me afloat. I've taken on side gigs, taught myself skills to try and get better paying work, but opportunities are scarce. Sometimes I get discouraged and think about giving up on my dreams entirely. The dream house, traveling abroad, saving for a family, they all feel like distant mirages now. I tell myself I'm just postponing, but the longer the postponement, the heavier it feels. I often think about what life would be like if expenses and income were more balanced, if I had breathing room to think beyond survival. Would I be more creative, more hopeful? Would I invest in myself differently, take risks, build connections? I want that life, the one where money isn't the first thing I think about every morning or the last thing I worry about before bed. Writing this now, I realize how important it is to acknowledge these feelings honestly. Financial pressure isn't just about dollars and cents, it's about the toll it takes on our hearts and minds. It's about feeling trapped in a system that doesn't always make sense and learning how to survive within it while still holding on to hope that better days are ahead. If you're feeling this too, know that you're not alone. It's okay to be tired, to be frustrated, to feel vulnerable. And it's okay to keep hoping and pushing for a future where you can breathe easier and live fuller. That future may feel far off, but I'm still holding on to it, one small step at a time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm stuck in quicksand that tightens its grip every day. When I graduated college, I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe move to a new city, find a job I loved, save up for a little apartment of my own. But here I am, a few years later, and it feels like everything is slipping through my fingers, no matter how hard I hold on. The money just never seems to stretch far enough. Every morning I wake up with this heavy knot in my stomach. It's not just stress, it's this deep, gnawing anxiety about money. Bills, rent, groceries, transportation, and then the little extras that somehow always sneak in, like the coffee I tell myself I deserve, or that pair of socks because the old ones have holes. It's a constant balancing act, and the scale is always tipping the wrong way. Expenses climb every month. Rent went up again this year, even though my paycheck stayed the same. Gas prices jump, and suddenly the few dollars I thought I could spend on something fun disappear into filling up the tank. I find myself saying no a lot. No to going out with friends, no to buying something new for myself, no to any kind of splurge, even small ones. When my friends talk about weekend trips or eating out, I feel this strange mix of envy and shame. Envy because they seem free, and shame because I can't be. The truth is, I'm not just watching my bank account, I'm watching my life shrink around me. The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up every month. No matter how fast I go, I'm not getting anywhere. I work overtime sometimes, but that extra money mostly goes toward catching up on bills or paying off the minimum on my credit card. I'm trying to save, but it feels hopeless. The cost of living rises faster than my income, and the debt I've accumulated from school and everyday expenses looms over me like a dark cloud. Sometimes I wonder if it's my fault. Maybe I'm not managing money well enough. But then I see the news or talk to coworkers, and they're in the same boat. The economy is tough for people like me, young adults who are just starting out, burdened with student loans and entry-level wages that don't match the rising prices of everything else. It's like the whole system is designed to keep me on this edge, never quite stable enough to breathe easy. Emotionally, it's exhausting. The financial pressure seeps into every part of my life. I'm more irritable, more tired, and I've noticed that my self-esteem has taken a hit. I compare myself to others, to who I thought I'd be by now, and it's painful. I don't talk about this much, people might judge me or say I'm just being lazy or irresponsible. But it's more than that. It's a constant battle with fear and frustration. Coping isn't easy. Some days, I put on a brave face, distract myself with music or a good book, and tell myself this is temporary. Other days, I let the sadness wash over me and cry in the quiet of my room. I've learned to cut back on spending where I can, cooking at home instead of ordering food, buying second-hand clothes, skipping subscriptions I don't truly need. But even these small sacrifices feel like a weight, a reminder of what I'm missing out on. I still hold on to hope, though. There's a part of me that believes things will get better, even if it's hard to see right now. I dream about the day I can afford to move out of this cramped apartment, travel somewhere new, or just have a savings account that doesn't make me anxious to check. But those dreams have been pushed further and further into the future. For now, I'm just trying to get through each day without feeling crushed. I don't want this to be my story forever. I want to find a way out of this cycle, but it's hard to know where to start. Sometimes, I wonder if it's possible to break free or if I'm just meant to keep fighting for scraps. The weight of all this pressure is heavy, but I keep going, because what else is there? Giving up isn't an option, even if hope feels fragile. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's how deeply money affects not just my bank account but my entire sense of self. It shapes my choices, my relationships, my mood. And while the system feels designed to keep me trapped, I hold on to the belief that one day, maybe soon, I'll find a crack in this wall. Until then, I'll keep balancing, hoping, and dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. I never thought I'd be this person, the one constantly watching every cent, feeling like I'm running on a treadmill that only speeds up as I try to keep pace. But here I am, in my mid-20s, juggling bills that seem to grow by the week while my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. It's exhausting. And it's scary. I grew up believing that if I worked hard enough, things would fall into place. My parents always told me to get a good education, find a stable job, and be smart with my money. I did all that. I graduated with a degree, found a job in my field, and tried to live responsibly. But the cost of living, rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, it's like this invisible monster lurking around every corner, swallowing up what little I earn before I even get a chance to breathe. Every month feels like a battle. I sit down with my bank account, half hopeful and half terrified, knowing that the numbers won't add up the way I want them to. Rent is due, and it's already a huge chunk of my income. Utilities keep climbing. Food costs more. My car needs maintenance I can't really afford. I've cut back on everything I can think of, no more dinners out, no new clothes, fewer social outings, skipping on coffee, and still, the money runs out before the month ends. It's like I'm trapped in this system designed to keep me on the edge, never quite comfortable, always just surviving. I see the news, hear about inflation, interest rates, and housing crises, but it feels so distant and abstract until I feel the pressure on my own shoulders. It's not just numbers, it's anxiety, stress, a constant knot in my stomach. The worst part is how it chips away at my sense of self. I was always ambitious, full of dreams and plans. I wanted to travel, to save for a home, maybe start a family someday. But those dreams feel like distant lights on the horizon, flickering further away with every unexpected expense or paycheck that falls short of what I need. I postpone everything. A trip? Not now. New career training? Can't afford it. Even simple joys like a weekend getaway with friends feel like a luxury I have no right to indulge. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm doing something wrong. Am I not trying hard enough? Am I just unlucky? I scroll through social media, see people with new gadgets, vacations, and milestones I wish I could reach, and the comparison is brutal. But I also know those highlight reels don't show the full story. Still, it's hard not to feel left behind. I cope the best I can. I've started meal prepping to save on food, use public transportation more, and make small moments of joy where I can, like reading a book from the library instead of buying one, or taking walks in the park instead of expensive outings. I built a tiny emergency fund, even if it's just a few $100s, because the fear of an unexpected bill can paralyze me. I've talked to friends, some who get it, others who don't quite understand how tight things are, but it helps to share. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I just sit quietly and feel the weight of it all. Still, I hold on to hope. Maybe things will shift. Maybe I'll find a better job or a side hustle that brings in more. Maybe the economy will stabilize. Maybe I'll be able to breathe again, to dream freely without fear. But for now, it's about small wins, paying the rent on time, keeping the lights on, and reminding myself I'm not alone in this. Being young and financially stretched feels like standing in quicksand. The more I struggle, the deeper I sink. But even when it feels impossible, I keep reaching for solid ground. Because what other choice do I have? Giving up on the future isn't an option. It can't be. I used to believe that if I just worked hard enough, life would reward me. That a steady job, a little discipline, and some sacrifice would be enough to build the future I dreamed of. But now, at 27, I'm learning that reality doesn't always work that way. Instead, it feels like I'm trapped in a system where the cost of living grows faster than my paycheck, where every step forward comes with 2 steps back, and where hope often feels like a luxury I can't afford. It started right after college. I got a decent job, something I thought would set me on solid ground. But rent was already high then, and it's only gotten worse. Each month, bills roll in, rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, and I watch helplessly as my income barely covers them. I make cuts where I can, no more dinners out, no new clothes, canceling my gym membership, skipping social events. But somehow, those expenses keep creeping up, like a tide rising and threatening to pull me under. The strangest part is how these financial pressures shape every tiny decision I make. Should I pay an extra $20 for faster internet so I can work better from home? Or is that a frivolous expense I can't justify? Can I afford to fill the gas tank for the week's job applications and interviews, or do I stay home and risk missing an opportunity? Sometimes, I skip meals to stretch my food budget, and the pang of hunger reminds me how scarce things have become. This constant juggling act wears me down. I wake up anxious, wondering if this month's paycheck will cover rent and if I'll have enough left for groceries. It's exhausting, not just physically but emotionally. I feel this constant undercurrent of stress that I can't shake off. When friends talk about buying homes, traveling, or saving for retirement, I smile, but inside there's a sharp sting. Those dreams feel out of reach, almost impossible. I've had to push aside plans for further education, moving to a better neighborhood, even starting a family because I can't see a clear path to stability. The isolation is one of the hardest parts. It's embarrassing to admit I'm struggling, especially when it seems like everyone else is managing fine. I don't want to be a burden, so I keep quiet. But keeping it all inside makes the pressure feel heavier. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about what I'm doing wrong, or if there's something more I should be doing, but the truth is, it feels like the deck is stacked against me. Still, I find ways to cope. I look for small joys, a walk in the evening, a call with a close friend, a few pages from a book. I remind myself that this is temporary, even if that feels like a fragile promise. I've started budgeting meticulously, tracking every dollar, trying to be smarter, but the gap between what I earn and what I need feels like a canyon I can't cross. I even picked up a second job for a while, but that only made me more exhausted, with less time to focus on the future. Sometimes I get angry, at the rising cost of everything, at stagnant wages, at a system that seems to reward the wealthy and leave the rest behind. But mostly, I feel weary, caught in this endless cycle of trying to keep up and falling behind. The dreams I had, of owning a home, traveling, feeling secure, they're on hold, maybe indefinitely. Yet, I try not to lose hope. I cling to the belief that hard work will pay off someday, even if it's slower than I imagined. I hold on to the idea that I'm not alone in this, that many others feel the same pressure and frustration. And maybe, one day, the tide will turn, and I'll finally be able to breathe easier, to live without counting every cent, to dream again without hesitation. For now, this is my story, a quiet struggle, a persistent fight to survive in a world that often feels indifferent to those just trying to get by. If you're listening, know you're not alone, and together, maybe we can find a way through this. I never thought money would feel like a cage. When I was younger, I imagined that as an adult, I'd have control over my time, my choices, my future. But as I inch through my mid-20s, what I feel most is trapped. Trapped in a cycle where the cost of living keeps rising faster than my paycheck grows, and every month feels like a balancing act on a thin, cracking wire. I work a steady job that pays okay, not spectacular, but enough, I thought, to build a life. The problem is that nothing stays enough for long. Rent creeps up, groceries get pricier, utilities spike in summer and winter. I've read all the headlines about inflation, the cost of housing bubbles, the shrinking middle class, but the abstract numbers turned painfully real when I saw my bank account drain month after month despite working overtime. It's like running in place on a treadmill that speeds up whenever I try to step faster. Everyday decisions feel like a minefield. I find myself asking, can I afford this, with everything, food, transportation, even something as simple as a coffee? The small pleasures that once made life enjoyable have turned into guilt-ridden choices. I skip meals sometimes, or ration food, just to stretch what little I have. I avoid social invitations because even a cheap night out means spending money I can't quite spare. I feel embarrassed admitting that, even to myself. There's a constant knot of anxiety under my ribs. It's not just about missing a bill or running out of money. It's a deeper, gnawing fear that I'm locked into this system, one where expenses spiral upward and wages don't keep up. The student loans I thought I'd pay off in a few years have become a long-term burden, silently waiting for me every month. Health insurance premiums, car repairs, unexpected emergencies, they pile up, making me question if I'll ever truly be financially free. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I put on a brave face, but the stress creeps into my sleep and steals my peace. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I feel overwhelmed by shame and frustration. I compare myself to peers who seem to have it together, owning homes, traveling, advancing careers, and wonder where I went wrong. Yet, I know this isn't just my struggle. It's a shared reality for so many my age, a generation squeezed between stagnant wages and skyrocketing costs. I cope by becoming hyper-aware of every dollar. Budget apps, discount hunting, meal prepping, side gigs, all these small survival tactics become the fabric of my days. I've sacrificed hobbies and passions, postponing dreams I once held dear. Traveling abroad? That's a dream on hold indefinitely. Buying a home? Feels impossible without a huge windfall. Even saving for future plans, education, family, retirement, feels like a distant fantasy. But beyond the struggle, there's a flicker of hope. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I try to believe that if I keep pushing, keep learning, and keep holding on to those postponed dreams, maybe someday I'll breathe easier. I want to live a life where money isn't a source of fear but a tool to create the future I imagine. I share this not because I want sympathy, but because the weight of financial pressure is real and deeply human. If you're feeling trapped too, know you're not alone. The system may be broken, but together, maybe we can find ways to survive, and eventually, to thrive. And maybe one day, I'll look back on this time as the chapter where I learned resilience, patience, and the true value of hope. Until then, I keep moving forward, one cautious step at a time. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm trapped in a cage I can't see, but I can't escape either. Every morning, I wake up to a weight pressing down on my chest, and it's not just the usual stress of getting through the day. It's this persistent, gnawing pressure tied to money. More precisely, the lack of it. I'm 27, working full-time, and still, I'm stuck constantly wondering how I'll pay next month's rent, cover my bills, or just afford a decent meal without stretching my budget thin. It wasn't always like this. When I graduated college, I had hope. I believed if I just worked hard enough, the pieces would fall into place. But somewhere along the way, the ground shifted beneath me. Inflation keeps climbing, rent keeps rising, groceries are pricier than ever, and my paycheck? It barely moves. Every raise feels like a drop in the ocean compared to how much more everything costs. The system feels rigged, like a cruel joke where the rules change every day but never in your favor. I remember the first time I felt really crushed by it all. It was last winter. I'd been putting off a few bills because I was certain I could catch up next month. But then, surprise, car broke down. I had to pay for repairs I didn't have saved up for. That month, I lived on instant noodles and whatever I could scrounge. No heating in my apartment for a week because I couldn't afford the bill. I sat curled up under layers of blankets, trying not to cry, but the tears came anyway. I felt utterly alone, like I was failing at the basic task of adulting. It's not just about the money. It's how it eats away at me emotionally. I can't relax, I can't stop running the numbers in my head. Should I skip a social event to save money? Should I cancel my gym membership even though exercise is the only thing keeping my anxiety in check? Every choice feels like a compromise, a small sacrifice I'm forced to make just to survive. There's no space for joy or spontaneity because I'm always looking over my shoulder, worried about the next unexpected expense. I keep thinking about the dreams I had. When I was younger, I imagined traveling, actually seeing the world, not just scrolling through pictures on social media. I wanted to go to art school, learn painting, maybe even start a side business selling my work. But those plans? They've been put on hold indefinitely, along with so many others. I can't afford to take a risk like going back to school or starting something new that might not pay off right away. Security feels like a distant mirage. Some days, I feel like I'm drowning. Like no matter how hard I swim, the current pulls me under. I'm constantly juggling bills, finding creative ways to stretch my paycheck, sometimes even borrowing from friends or family, which I hate doing because I don't want to be a burden. I've learned to live without a lot of things I used to take for granted: eating out, new clothes, even decent furniture. I buy the cheapest groceries, second-hand stuff, anything that keeps my expenses down. It's exhausting, and sometimes I just want to scream. But then there are moments of quiet resilience. I found little ways to cope. I journal to get my thoughts out instead of letting them stew in my mind. I started a gratitude list, ridiculous as it sounds, focusing on small wins, like making it through a tough week or getting a compliment at work. I connect with people who understand, who don't judge me for my struggles. It helps remind me I'm not alone in this fight, even if it feels isolating at times. I still hold on to hope, even if it feels fragile. Hope that one day, the economy will shift in a way that benefits people like me, not just the wealthy. Hope that wages will catch up with the cost of living. Hope that I can save enough to move somewhere affordable or finally take a break without risking financial disaster. And maybe, just maybe, I'll get to revisit those dreams I shelved so long ago: traveling, art, and all the things that make life feel full. For now, I'm learning to be patient with myself. To accept that survival right now is enough. That it's okay to feel vulnerable and tired. Because beneath the pressure, beneath the exhaustion, there's still a part of me that refuses to give up. Even when it feels like the system is stacked against me, I keep showing up, day after day, hoping that persistence will eventually open a door. This is the reality for so many young adults today. The feeling of being caught in a loop where expenses climb faster than income, where every step forward feels like 2 steps back. It's not just a financial battle, it's a fight for dignity, for peace of mind, for a chance to breathe and dream again. And maybe, sharing this story is a small step toward breaking that silence. Because if we can speak honestly about how hard it is, maybe we can find ways to support each other better, and maybe, just maybe, push for a future that feels a little less impossible. I never thought I'd be this person, stuck in the middle of the month staring at my bank app like it's some kind of riddle I have to solve, trying to figure out how much I can afford to spend without triggering some financial disaster. Every time I see the numbers, there's this sinking feeling, like I'm slowly sinking in quicksand, and the harder I struggle, the faster I'm pulled down. I'm 27, living in a city that's somehow always more expensive than I remember it being just a year ago. Rent feels like a constant punch in the gut, the utilities and groceries seem to rise overnight, and my paycheck? It's the same as last year, barely keeping pace, and never really catching up. It's this relentless treadmill where expenses grow faster than income, and I'm sprinting just to stay in place. Most days, I wake up with this nagging anxiety. It's not loud or overwhelming, but it's there in the background, like a low hum that never quite disappears. I'm constantly weighing every decision: should I order lunch or bring leftovers? Can I skip that coffee today, or will I crash by noon? Is it worth taking the bus, or should I walk the extra mile even if it eats into my time? These choices might seem small, but they stack up, pile on top of each other, and dictate how my day unfolds. There was a time when I imagined my 20s differently. I had plans: travel, a steady savings account, maybe even buying a car or moving out of this tiny, overpriced studio that feels more like a cage than a home. I dreamed about weekends without the stress of whether I'd have enough for groceries, about spontaneous nights out, or just the freedom to buy something that wasn't on sale or discounted. Instead, those dreams feel like they're on hold indefinitely, shoved to the back of my mind so I don't have to confront how far away they've gotten. Sometimes, it's hard not to feel defeated. I catch myself wondering if it's something I'm doing wrong or if this is just the reality for so many people my age. I scroll through social media, seeing friends posting about promotions, trips, new apartments, and I feel this sharp sting of jealousy mixed with guilt. Why am I struggling when others seem to be thriving? But then I remind myself, everyone's fighting their own battles, even if they don't show it. The system feels rigged in a way that's hard to articulate. I pay taxes, I work hard, I budget like crazy, but still, the cost of living sneaks up on me. Bills come in that I didn't expect, prices on everyday items creep higher, and my emergency fund is a distant dream. There's this overwhelming sense of being trapped, like no matter how smart or disciplined I am, the deck is stacked against me. It's exhausting. The constant vigilance drains me emotionally and mentally. It's not just the money, it's the feeling of powerlessness, of watching my future shrink. I cope by holding on to little things that don't cost much but help me breathe: long walks, podcasts that distract me from the noise in my head, late-night talks with friends who get it. Sometimes, I let myself dream again, even if it feels risky. I imagine what it would be like to have enough, not just to survive but to live fully. I picture a day where I don't have to second-guess every purchase or feel ashamed for saying no to plans because my budget won't allow it. There's a part of me that clings fiercely to hope, even when it feels fragile. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I'm trying to learn skills, build experience, and make connections that might open doors someday. But the waiting, the hoping, the postponing, it wears on me. It's a quiet heartbreak, this slow grinding of dreams under the weight of economic pressure. Some nights, I lie awake and wonder what it will take to break free, how many sacrifices, how much patience. I'm tired of being tired. I want to believe there's a way out, a path to stability and peace. And maybe that's the most human thing of all, the stubborn hope that even in this tight, unyielding system, there's a crack of light somewhere. So, I keep moving forward, even when it's hard to see the end. Because what choice do I have, really? The world keeps turning, bills keep coming, and I keep trying to make it through one day at a time, holding on to hope, even when the weight of the present feels unbearable. I've started calling it the treadmill, the way life feels lately. I wake up every morning and my first thought isn't what I'm going to do, but what I can afford. There's a difference. I'm 27, and I live in a one-bedroom apartment that costs 61% of my monthly income. That's after taxes and before I buy groceries, refill my transit card, or cover the Wi-Fi I need for work. I freelance in graphic design, juggling 3 long-term contracts and a bunch of one-off gigs. My schedule's erratic, but I try to make it look glamorous on social media. It's not a lie exactly, just an edited truth. It's hard to post about panic attacks or skipping meals to make rent when your feed is curated in pastel tones. Every day is math. Every coffee, every bus ride, every piece of fruit is a line in my mental spreadsheet. I use budgeting apps, but I also use sticky notes on the fridge to remind myself, you have $42.19 for food this week. Plan smart. It's not that I can't cook or budget, it's just that no matter how tightly I manage everything, the numbers never stay still. Rent went up again. Groceries are somehow more expensive every month. My health insurance deductible jumped last year, and I'm still paying off a single emergency room visit from when I fainted at the train station in November. There's a kind of shame in being this tired all the time. Not just physically, though I often wake up feeling like I haven't slept. It's a bone-deep exhaustion, mental, emotional, existential. I used to dream in color. Now I mostly dream about losing my phone or my bank card. When I was younger, I had ideas. I wanted to go to grad school for urban planning. I pictured myself working on community projects, helping build equitable cities. I even got accepted into a program 2 years ago, but I deferred, twice. I couldn't justify the debt, not with the way things are. Tuition alone would have buried me, and I'm already carrying over $18,000 in undergrad loans. Every month, I pay the minimum like a prayer. Sometimes I wonder what it's like to make a decision that isn't dictated by money. Just once, I'd like to choose a job because it excites me, not because it pays slightly more than the last. I'd like to say yes to a weekend trip without calculating how many freelance hours I'll need to cover it. I'd like to order dessert at dinner without guilt. My friends talk about weddings, about saving for homes. I nod along, but inside I feel like I live in a different country. They're not necessarily wealthy, just luckier. Some got help from parents, others landed stable jobs before the economy took another nosedive. I try not to resent them. But I do feel left behind. I've gotten good at hiding it. I smile, I hustle, I show up. But under the surface, it's a constant buzz, a low-frequency anxiety that never shuts off. I haven't had a day completely off in over 8 months. If I don't work, I don't earn. If I don't earn, I can't live. It's that simple. That brutal. Coping looks like small rituals. I go on long walks when the weather's good, just to get air and avoid spending money. I borrow books from the library and lose myself in other people's stories. I meditate, sometimes, though it's hard to be still when your mind is doing financial triage. I've become a wizard with lentils and rice. I find moments of joy in little things, a text from my sister, a second-hand coat that actually fits, a playlist that makes the commute feel cinematic. But even joy feels rationed. There's this idea that if you work hard, things will get better. I used to believe that. I worked hard through college, worked harder after. But it's like running up a down escalator that keeps getting faster. Every raise gets swallowed by inflation. Every extra gig is taxed into oblivion. And it's not just me, everyone I know is tired, anxious, trying to spin 5 plates on a single stick. I remember once, during a rare dinner out with friends, someone joked, "We're the burnout generation." Everyone laughed too hard. Because it's true, and also because what else can you do? I don't want this to sound hopeless. I'm still here. I still have dreams. I still believe in beauty, in community, in the idea that things can change. But some days, I feel like I'm living a life designed to wear me down. And I hate that. I hate how small my world has become, how decisions that used to feel exciting now feel like risks I can't afford. I haven't given up. I keep applying for better paying jobs. I keep networking, sending portfolios, tweaking my resume. But there's this deep fear that maybe this is it, that I'll be stuck in survival mode forever. That the system isn't broken because it's failing, but because it's working exactly as intended, to keep people like me just afloat enough not to drown, but never high enough to breathe easy. Some days, I let myself imagine a future. One where I can own a small home, maybe adopt a dog, work on community projects again. Where I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. Where I have space, not just physical, but mental, emotional. Space to think, to rest, to create without fear. But then the rent reminder pings on my phone, and I'm snapped back into now. Still, I keep walking. I keep trying. Because even if the system feels rigged, I have to believe that another life is possible. That I can find a way off this treadmill, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. And on the hard days, that hope is the one thing I can afford to keep. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought I'd be 26 and still counting change before I can buy milk. Sometimes I stand in the grocery aisle and do the math on my phone, quietly deleting items from my notes app as the total gets too high. Eggs? No, too expensive this week. Laundry detergent? I'll stretch what I have. Bread stays. Cheese goes. That's the math I've come to know, less about numbers and more about sacrifices. I work 2 jobs. One's at a small bookstore that barely sees foot traffic, but it keeps me tethered to something I love. The other is at a cafe where I smile more than I mean to and survive on caffeine I technically shouldn't drink because I have mild anxiety. But coffee's free there. And that's something. Rent eats up over 60% of my income. I live in a converted garage in the back of someone's house, and I try to be grateful that I even have that. The walls are thin, so I hear everything from next door, arguments, laughter, silence. Sometimes I press my ear to the cold plaster and imagine I live in their world instead. One where a dishwasher hums, where someone else helps pay the bills, where people argue about weekend plans instead of how they'll afford gas. The truth is, I didn't see this coming. I studied graphic design. I dreamed of working in publishing or creating art for music albums, telling stories through images. My senior project was a visual narrative on memory and loss, and my professor said it was hauntingly effective. That was 4 years ago. Since then, I've applied to more than 200 jobs. Heard back from 12. Interviewed at 6. Hired by none. It's not that I'm lazy. I hustle. I take freelance gigs whenever they come. I design logos for $50 here and there, make wedding invitations for friends of friends. But it's feast or famine, and mostly it's famine. I can't plan. I can't save. Emergencies are a luxury I can't afford to have. Every time my phone buzzes, I get a shot of anxiety. Is it a bill? A payment reminder? A friend asking to hang out, something I'll have to turn down because the cost of one drink could cover half my groceries for the week. It's hard to explain to people who aren't living it. Some friends say things like, just move to a cheaper city, or why don't you stay with your parents for a while? But moving takes money I don't have. And my parents? They're just scraping by themselves. There's no home to go back to. I love them, but I also know they don't understand what it's like to graduate into a world where rent outpaces wages every year and you're told the problem is your avocado toast. I scroll through social media and see people traveling, buying houses, posting engagement rings. I feel happy for them, truly. But I also feel this sinking tightness in my chest. Like I'm running a race that loops around the same block while others are on a highway. I postponed a lot of dreams. I wanted to travel, nothing crazy, just to see Italy once. I wanted to adopt a dog. I wanted to fall in love without worrying how we'd split utilities. I wanted to get therapy consistently, not just when I had a panic attack so bad I thought I was dying. But here I am. Budgeting toilet paper. Arguing with insurance reps, saying no to every invitation that involves more than walking distance and zero cover charge. I tell myself I'm being financially responsible, but it feels more like barely surviving. The worst part? The shame. It clings to me like a second skin. Shame that I can't figure it out, that I'm not where I thought I'd be, that I've failed some invisible test everyone else seems to have passed. Still, I have small rituals that keep me going. I draw at night, sketches in a worn-out notebook I've had since college. It's not for money, not for social media. Just for me. I read when I can, even if it's just a few pages a week. I keep a sticky note on my mirror that says, "You're still here." Some mornings, that's enough. And I dream. Quietly, carefully. I dream of a time when I won't have to choose between paying rent and buying glasses to replace the ones I've taped together. I dream of a space with sunlight and plants. Of waking up without dread. Of designing something that lives in the world and makes people feel something. I know I'm not alone in this. More and more of us are stuck in the same cycle, working non-stop just to stay in place. It's not laziness. It's the math of a system that's rigged to keep us drowning with just enough air to keep breathing. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still believing, even when it hurts. Maybe that's enough, for now. I wake up to the sound of my alarm buzzing like an insect in my ear. 6:10 a.m. My first thought isn't about the day ahead, it's about how much money I don't have. It's always there, sitting in the back of my mind like a leak in the ceiling you can't fix. You learn to live with the drip. I'm 27. I work 2 jobs, sometimes 3 if you count the freelance gigs I scramble to find on platforms that take 20% off the top. I'm a barista in the mornings, and I do admin work for a small marketing agency in the afternoons. Neither pays well. The barista job gives me just enough to cover groceries and some bills, the admin job covers rent, barely. My student loans are in forbearance. Again. I postponed them so many times that the interest now looks like a separate debt. Every decision I make filters through one question: can I afford this? It's exhausting. The smallest things turn into math problems. A lunch invite from a coworker becomes a mental equation. If I spend $14 today, that means I skip dinner twice this week or delay refilling my Subway card. I used to love getting iced coffee on warm days, now it's a luxury. I make it at home with instant granules that taste like burnt cardboard. It's not the taste that hurts, it's the ritual I miss. The normalcy. I live in a one-bedroom I split with my friend Tara. We've been roommates since college. We joke that our apartment is minimalist by necessity. Our kitchen table is 2 crates stacked with a salvaged plank of wood. My mattress is on the floor. The walls are bare, except for one poster Tara got from a street artist that says, "Keep going, nothing is permanent." Some days, that line feels hopeful. Most days, it just feels like a bad joke. The city I live in wasn't always this expensive. I remember visiting as a teenager and thinking it was alive, vibrant. Now it just feels suffocating. Everything costs more than it did a year ago: rent, groceries, transit. Even streaming services. My rent jumped by $120 last month. I didn't get a raise. I haven't in 2 years. I keep a spreadsheet of my monthly budget. It's a cruel document. The red numbers glare at me like wounds that won't heal. I update it obsessively, even though it rarely changes. Every month, there's less room to breathe. Emotionally, it takes a toll. There's a tightness in my chest I can't shake, like I'm bracing for a crash that's already happened. I don't sleep well. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about bills, about what would happen if I got sick and missed a week of work. I have health insurance, but it's catastrophic coverage, basically worthless unless I lose a limb. Even then, I'd probably owe a deductible the size of a used car. I don't tell my family much. My parents did what they could, but they've got their own struggles. They live in a small town where jobs dried up a decade ago. My dad used to work at a factory that shut down when I was in high school. My mom cleans houses. They think I'm doing well, because I live in a big city and have an apartment. I let them believe that. I don't want to add weight to their already heavy shoulders. Coping? I don't know if I'd call it that. It's more like enduring. I write in a journal sometimes. I walk a lot, cheaper than therapy. Music helps. I've curated a playlist called Survive, Don't Sink. It's dramatic, sure, but when I plug in my headphones and drown out the world, I can almost pretend I'm not drowning in it. Dreams? Yeah, I used to have some. I wanted to open a bookstore cafe. A cozy little spot where people could read, drink good coffee, and feel safe. I still have a notebook filled with sketches of the layout, lists of books I'd stock, ideas for seasonal drinks. I look at it now and it feels like something I made when I was a different person. A person who believed things would work out if you just worked hard enough. Now I know better. Hard work doesn't always lead to stability. Sometimes, it just keeps you from falling off a cliff, barely. Dating is a minefield. I've ended relationships because I couldn't handle the guilt of not being able to contribute equally, or the shame of admitting I couldn't afford a weekend trip or a nice dinner. When people say, "Let's split the bill," I smile and nod, but inside I'm doing panic math. Once, I had to excuse myself to the bathroom just to check my bank app and make sure my card wouldn't be declined. The system feels rigged. I'm not saying I expected life to be easy, but I didn't expect it to feel like this. Like a treadmill that speeds up every time you catch your breath. There's this illusion that we're all just a few smart moves away from financial freedom. But that's not true when your income is static and the cost of existing keeps ballooning. There's a kind of grief in it, I think. Not just for the dreams you postpone, but for the person you thought you'd become by now. I thought I'd be stable, maybe even starting a family. Instead, I'm collecting discount codes and wondering if I can make it to Friday on $23. I'm not hopeless. Not completely. There are good days. Days when I laugh with Tara over a cheap bottle of wine, or when a stranger compliments my thrifted jacket and I remember that joy doesn't always come with a price tag. I still believe in people. I still believe that kindness can exist even in tight spaces. But I'm tired. And I know I'm not alone. So many of us are walking this tightrope, pretending we're fine, when really we're just hoping no unexpected expense knocks us off. I'll keep going, because I have to. I still want things. A future. A home I don't have to share. A pet, maybe. Peace. Not the kind that comes with a vacation, but the kind you feel when you're not worried every minute. Maybe one day I'll open that bookstore cafe. Maybe I won't. But I'll keep the notebook. I'll keep the dream even if I have to bury it for now. Nothing is permanent, right? I used to think adulthood would feel like some kind of unlocking, like once I crossed the threshold of college graduation, I'd step into a new room with more light, more options, more air to breathe. But it didn't happen like that. Instead, I feel like I've walked into a hallway with no exits. Just doors labeled with things I can't afford. I'm 27. I work full-time as a content coordinator for a mid-sized marketing firm. On paper, it sounds kind of nice, stable, creative, upward potential. In reality, it's a $46,000 a year salary, before taxes, in a city where rent alone eats up over 60% of my monthly income. And that's living with a roommate. A good one, thankfully, but still, someone I didn't know 3 years ago who now hears me crying behind the door more often than I'd like to admit. The financial pressure isn't loud. It's not a single catastrophic moment. It's quiet, persistent erosion. It's every checkout screen where I uncheck express shipping because I need the $4. It's me standing in the grocery aisle comparing store-brand lentils to name-brand because the 60-cent difference actually matters. It's canceling therapy, something that helped me stay afloat, because even with insurance, I couldn't swing the copay anymore. It's weird how much mental energy I spend just calculating. Do I take the train or bus? What saves me more over a week? Do I accept a happy hour invite and nurse one drink the entire night, or do I decline and risk further isolating myself from friends I already don't see enough? It's always math. It's not living, it's managing. When I was younger, I thought financial stress would come from big emergencies. Like a car accident or job loss. I didn't realize the more insidious version is just living normally. I haven't had a vacation in 5 years. The closest I came was when my best friend got married out of state and I took 3 unpaid days to attend. I slept on someone's hotel floor. It was beautiful and I was happy to be there, but I felt like an outsider in a world I couldn't afford to be part of. My student loans aren't massive compared to others, $32,000, but the interest grows faster than I can chip away at it. I pay the minimum and watch the balance stay the same. Sometimes I joke that I'll die before I pay it off. It's not a funny joke, but laughing feels better than crying. The hardest part is how it messes with my sense of worth. I work hard. I picked up freelance gigs. I tutor online on weekends. But still, I live paycheck to paycheck, with a dwindling savings account that's just a few $100s now. I blame myself sometimes, even though I know it's not just me. Inflation's up, wages aren't. Rent increases outpace raises. Eggs cost more. Gas costs more. Even basic hygiene stuff, deodorant, shampoo, tampons, are borderline luxury items now. I used to dream big. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get into UX design or even psychology. I thought about moving to a new city, one where I didn't have to share a bathroom or where I could maybe afford a balcony or a tiny yard for a rescue dog. Now my dreams are smaller. I hope I can make rent next month. I hope my aging laptop doesn't die. I hope I don't get sick and have to deal with medical bills again. There's a kind of shame in not being able to get ahead, like society's whispering, if you just worked harder, you'd be fine. But I know plenty of people working 2 jobs, even 3, and still not making it. It's not laziness, it's a system that punishes people for being poor and tired. Everything is stacked: healthcare, housing, education, food. It's not even about getting rich anymore. I just want to breathe without calculating every breath. I remember one afternoon I had a panic attack in a Target. I'd gone in to buy toilet paper and a birthday card for my niece. That's it. But I got to the register and saw the total, just over $11, and something in me cracked. $11. I stood there, frozen, while people lined up behind me. My hands were shaking as I put the card back and muttered something about forgetting my wallet. I walked out empty-handed, heart pounding, like I'd just run a race. It wasn't about the $11. It was about the way every tiny cost adds up until it becomes this weight you can't see but always feel pressing on your chest. I have coping strategies. I journal. I walk a lot, partly because it's free, partly because it clears my head. I go to the library, which has become my church. It's one of the last places where you can exist without spending money. I read books about resilience, about systems, about people who made it out. I cling to those stories like life rafts. Sometimes I catch myself fantasizing about winning the lottery, not for yachts or designer clothes, but for the ability to breathe. To get my teeth cleaned. To fix the leak under the sink without wondering how much the plumber will charge. To send my mom a plane ticket so she can come visit me. To not feel like every choice is a gamble I can't afford to lose. I know I'm not alone in this. I know this isn't just my failure, though it feels personal most days. I'm one person in a generation told to dream big and work hard, and then handed a reality that doesn't reward either of those things unless you start with a cushion, something soft to land on when the numbers don't add up. I didn't have that. Most people I know didn't. Still, I wake up and go to work. I pack leftovers. I keep a spreadsheet. I celebrate small wins, like finding toothpaste on sale or finally unsubscribing from that app one forgot I was paying for. I tell myself things will change. That something has to give eventually. But the truth? I'm tired. Not just physically, but in my bones. Tired of fighting for scraps. Tired of pretending I'm okay when I'm not. Tired of shrinking my dreams to fit a reality that keeps tightening like a noose. And yet, I still hope. Not every day, but enough to keep going. Hope that one day I'll wake up and not feel like I'm drowning in invisible debt. That I'll laugh without guilt. That I'll buy a birthday card and toilet paper and not think twice. Maybe that's what resilience is, hope dressed up in fatigue. Still moving, still dreaming, even when the world doesn't make space for either. I wake up each morning with a kind of low-level anxiety buzzing in my chest, like a song that won't stop playing in the background. I don't even need an alarm anymore, my thoughts wake me up. Rent's due soon. My credit card minimums are adding up. My phone's cracked, but I can't afford to replace it. Again. I'm 27. I work full-time at a small marketing firm. It's a decent job. I'm grateful for it, genuinely. But let's be real, $48,000 a year in a city where a one-bedroom averages $1,800 a month doesn't go very far. After rent, utilities, student loans, groceries, and transportation, there's not much left. Forget saving. Forget owning a home. Forget vacations. I haven't traveled for leisure since college. I keep telling myself I'll go somewhere next year. But next year never comes. Every dollar has a destination before it hits my account. I plan my week like a game of Tetris. How many meals can I stretch from a bag of rice, a few cans of beans, and whatever's on sale in the meat section? A latte from the cafe down the street used to be a small joy. I don't do that anymore. Now it's instant coffee at home, no milk. When I'm invited out, I calculate the cost in my head before I say yes. I check the menu online first. I pray there's a happy hour. I smile, order the cheapest thing, and say, I'm not super hungry, even if my stomach is twisting from skipping lunch. I Venmo my friends with emojis so it seems casual, not desperate. Pizza slice from last night. I write, while I silently subtract it from my week's budget. It's exhausting. Not just the math of it, but the pretending. Pretending I'm okay. Pretending I'm not worried all the time. Pretending I'm not ashamed. I don't think people realize how much energy it takes to look like you're keeping up. My parents try to help when they can. But they're not rich either. They worked hard their whole lives and still carry debt. I remember being told that college was the key. So I went. I took out loans. I graduated with honors. I got the job. And somehow, I still ended up in this slow-motion panic that feels permanent. Sometimes, I wonder if I did something wrong. Did I pick the wrong major? Should I have skipped college altogether? Should I have gone into tech or learned a trade? It's hard not to blame myself, even though I know this isn't just a me problem. Most of my friends are barely holding it together too. We joke about it in group chats. We send each other memes about capitalism and laugh a little too hard. The truth is, it feels like the rules changed, but no one told us. Our parents could work a regular job, buy a house, raise kids, and still take vacations. We're working 2 jobs and still living paycheck to paycheck. Health insurance costs more, rent is through the roof, groceries are outrageous, and wages haven't kept up. We're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and there's no emergency stop button. I postponed so much. I used to dream of starting my own business, something creative, maybe a boutique agency or a design studio. But that requires capital. Time. A cushion I don't have. I used to want to travel the world. Now, I just want to pay off one of my credit cards. I want kids someday, too. But I can't imagine bringing a child into this mess. I can barely afford myself. And dating? It's hard to feel attractive when you're worried about affording dinner. So I keep my circle small. I say I'm focusing on myself, which is true in the saddest way possible. Coping looks different every day. Some days I walk until my legs ache just to avoid being in my apartment thinking about bills. Some days I scroll for hours, numbing myself with TikToks and Instagram reels. Other days, I make lists of goals I know I probably can't reach just to feel like I'm moving towards something. But even with all the pressure, I haven't given up. There's a stubborn part of me, call it delusional, call it hopeful, that believes things can change. I still write down ideas in my notes app. I still look at apartments I can't afford and imagine what it'd be like to have my own washer and dryer. I still have dreams. Tired ones. Smaller, maybe. But they're still there. I don't know what the answer is. I just know this isn't sustainable, for me, for any of us. Something's got to give. Until then, I'll keep budgeting, keep working, keep pretending a little. I'll keep holding on to hope like it's the last free thing I've got. I used to think that adulthood would bring freedom. When I was a kid, watching my parents juggle bills and groceries, I told myself, once I have my own job, I'll never worry like that. I didn't know then that the job would come with its own chains. I'm 27 now. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment just outside a mid-sized city, small enough that the rent isn't completely insane, but big enough that everything else is expensive. My rent went up again last month, $85 more per month. The landlord said it was in line with market trends, like that's supposed to make it feel less like a slow tightening of a noose. I make $43,000 a year working full-time as a project coordinator for a small marketing firm. It's not glamorous, but it's what I could get after college, and I'm good at it. Still, after taxes, insurance, and my $420 monthly student loan payment, there's not much left. I'm lucky if I have $150 to put aside for emergencies, and lately, emergencies have been showing up like uninvited guests. My car needed new tires, my fridge died, I had a dental issue that insurance barely touched. So now I budget like it's a second job. I track every dollar, every coffee, every bus fare. I've stopped buying lunch at work. I pack sad little sandwiches in Tupperware and avoid eye contact when coworkers head out to eat. It's not just the food I miss, it's the camaraderie, the sense of being part of something. It's weird how isolating financial stress is. I used to go out with friends, take weekend trips, say yes to spontaneous plans. Now I say no a lot. Can't tonight, I text. Busy. They probably think I'm pulling away. The truth is, I'm tired of making excuses. Tired of pretending I'm not scanning menus before I go out to make sure I can afford at least one thing. I dreamt of being a writer once. Not even a famous one, just someone who could make a living putting words together, maybe publishing a book or two. I still write sometimes. Little scraps in my notes app, short stories I never finish. But it's hard to summon creativity when your brain is constantly crunching numbers. Asterisk, how many days until rent? Can I make it 2 more weeks without buying groceries? What if I get sick? Asterisk, there's a kind of quiet panic that follows me everywhere. It's like a pressure behind my eyes, a tightening in my chest. Even good days are shadowed by the knowledge that one wrong step, a job loss, a car repair, a medical bill, could tip everything. I live on the edge of just enough. It's a narrow place, and there's no safety net below. I've thought about moving back in with my parents, but they're struggling too. My mom's working overtime at a nursing home, and my dad's hours were cut again at the warehouse. They've never said it outright, but I know they're proud I've made it on my own. I don't have the heart to tell them that I feel like I'm sinking more every month. I see headlines all the time: millennials can't afford homes, young adults delay families due to finances, the cost of living outpaces wages. It's strange to see your own struggle spelled out in clickbait. There's a kind of validation in it, but also a deeper despair. Like, asterisk, okay, I'm not alone. But also, this is normal now, asterisk, sometimes I try to imagine the future. Not the abstract one, 10, 20 years from now, but just next year. Where will I be? Will I finally pay off one of my credit cards? Will I have saved enough to take a short vacation? The truth is, I don't let myself hope too hard. Hope makes disappointment sharper. Still, I have little rituals that help me cope. I take walks in the evenings, headphones in, listening to music that makes me feel like I'm in control of my own story. I keep a small garden on my windowsill, just herbs, but something about growing things reminds me that time is moving, that change is still possible. I volunteer once a month at the library helping with kids' reading programs. It's free, it's grounding, and it reminds me of the parts of myself I don't want to lose. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I write letters to my younger self. I tell her the truth, that adulthood is harder than we thought. That money can shape your life in ways you never expected. But I also tell her that she's strong. That there's still beauty, even in struggle. That being broke doesn't mean being broken. I try to remind myself of that, too. I'm not giving up. But I am tired. I think a lot about what it means to build a life when the ground beneath you keeps shifting. I don't have answers yet. I just keep going. One paycheck to the next. One list of bills to the next. I still write, even if no one sees it. I still dream, even if it's quieter now. I still believe, somehow, that things can get better. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday. I didn't used to feel like money was a cage. When I was a kid, it was just something adults talked about in murmurs behind closed doors. You'd hear phrases like tight this month or gotta wait for payday, and they flew over my head like background noise. But now that I'm 26 and scraping by in a city where rent eats half my paycheck, I hear those words in my own voice every week. I work full-time as a customer support rep for a mid-sized tech company. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, for now. They let us work remote, which saves me on transit, but that's about the only mercy in my budget. After taxes, rent, utilities, student loans, and groceries, I usually have about $80 left. Not per week. Per month. Sometimes I'll sit with my phone open, debating if I should Venmo my half of a friend's birthday dinner or pretend I forgot. I'm not proud of that. I want to be there for the people I love. But every latte, every Uber, every spontaneous happy hour, it all gets measured like precious drops from a leaking faucet. Groceries used to be something I barely noticed. Now I agonize over every item. I buy store-brand everything: bulk rice, frozen vegetables. Fresh fruit? Only if it's on sale. And I become this calculating, coupon-scouring version of myself who feels guilty buying a $5 sandwich. $5. That used to feel like nothing. Now it's a choice between lunch and bus fare later in the week. Some days, I'll open my banking app and just stare at the numbers. I know exactly what I'll see, no surprises, but I look anyway. Like maybe the act of checking will change something. Like it'll teach me discipline. But I've been disciplined. I track every expense. I make my own coffee. I haven't bought new clothes in over a year, and my boots have a hole in them I cover with duct tape. But still, it's never enough. The worst part is the shame. It's not just the lack of money, it's the feeling that I must have done something wrong. That somewhere along the way, I missed a secret everyone else knew. I scroll through social media and see old classmates traveling, upgrading apartments, getting married in lush vineyards. I know not everything online is real, but still, the comparison lingers. Why them? Why not me? I graduated in 2021. Bad timing, I guess. The economy was trying to recover, but wages didn't catch up with inflation. I remember getting my offer letter, $46,000, and feeling proud. It was more than my parents had ever made. But then rent rose. Insurance premiums rose. Eggs doubled in price. Meanwhile, my paycheck stayed the same. I used to dream about going back to school. Getting a master's, maybe in psychology. I wanted to become a counselor, work with teens, make a difference. But that's on pause, indefinitely. I can't take on more loans. I can't even afford the application fees. Sometimes I wonder if that dream was just naive. A luxury belief I could afford when I still thought everything would get better with time. Dating is hard. Not just emotionally, but financially. I can't offer anything extravagant. I've canceled second dates because I didn't want to admit I couldn't swing dinner again. You get used to making excuses, busy with work, tight schedule. It's easier than confessing, I'm broke and exhausted and embarrassed. Mental health? That's another privilege. I haven't seen a therapist in years. My job offers coverage, but the copay is still $50. That's a quarter of my disposable income for a single session. So instead I journal. I go on long walks. I try to breathe through the panic when I'm lying in bed at 2 a.m. wondering how long my laptop will last, because if it breaks, I'm unemployed. I know I'm not alone. That's what both comforts and terrifies me. So many of us, millennials, Gen Z, we're all treading water, waiting for something to change. We do side hustles. We resell clothes. We take surveys for $3 payouts. We make spreadsheets like they're life rafts. Sometimes I fantasize about what I'd do if I had just a little room to breathe. Like, what if my rent was reasonable? What if food prices weren't climbing like ivy on fire? What if student debt wasn't this eternal ghost haunting every paycheck? I don't even need to be rich, I just want peace. A savings account I don't have to touch. A weekend where I'm not budgeting gas down to the mile. There's this constant tightness in my chest. It's subtle, like background radiation, but always there. Some days it's worse, like when an unexpected bill hits or when I have to say no to something I desperately want to say yes to. Other days, I push it down and find little joys, sunlight through the window, a perfectly ripe banana, a good laugh on a group chat. You start to treasure those moments like gold. I've learned to be creative. I cook meals from scratch. I mend my own clothes. I borrow library books instead of buying them. Sometimes, it feels like I'm living in a quiet rebellion, trying to carve dignity out of a system that feels rigged. Hope is a complicated thing. Some days, I have it. I believe something will shift. I believe people will vote for change, that better policies will come, that maybe one day wages will actually match the cost of living. Other days, hope feels like a prank. Like a dangling carrot I'll never quite reach. But I hold on. Because I have to. Because the alternative, giving up, scares me more than the grind. So I get up. I work. I count my pennies. I dream small, quiet dreams. I survive. Not because it's easy. Not because I'm particularly strong, but because this is the only way I know how to move forward in a world that keeps pushing me back. And maybe, just maybe, someday I won't just survive. I'll live. I used to believe that if you worked hard and kept your head down, things would eventually work out. That's what my parents always said, just keep pushing, stay responsible, save where you can, and one day you'll have a house, some stability, maybe even a vacation every couple of years. But I'm 27 now, and most days it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that someone keeps speeding up. I'm not lazy. I'm just tired. All the time. I work 2 jobs, one full-time as an administrative assistant for a property management company, and another part-time gig at a bookstore 3 nights a week and every other Saturday. Combined, I pull in about $300 a month after taxes. On paper, it looks like enough. But between rent, student loan payments, groceries, transportation, insurance, and now inflation, it's like trying to plug holes in a sinking boat with chewing gum. Rent alone is $150 for a tiny 1-bedroom I share with a roommate. Yeah, 1 bedroom, 2 people. I sleep on a futon in the living room, and she gets the bedroom because she's got night shifts and actually needs the door. I used to have dreams of living on my own, having a cozy little space to call mine, decorate how I want, light candles without worrying about someone else's allergies. That dream's on hold indefinitely. My student loans hover around $37,000. I try to make minimum payments, $320 a month, but I swear the number barely moves. It's like paying to stand still. And groceries, God, even just eating feels like a luxury now. I remember when $50 could get me a week's worth of meals. Now it's more like 2 or 3 days, and that's if I go heavy on pasta and rice. I've learned to shop like a strategist, coupons, discount hours, tracking sales, buying dented cans. I haven't had fresh salmon or real fruit juice in over a year. Some nights, I just skip dinner. Not because I want to, but because I have to choose between eating and having enough gas to get to work the next day. I tell myself I'm intermittent fasting. Makes it feel less pathetic. Emotionally, it's like living under a constant, invisible weight. There's always this pressure in my chest, like I'm one misstep away from everything falling apart. My car, a 2010 Corolla, is making a weird noise again. If it breaks down, I have no idea what I'll do. Public transit isn't reliable enough to get me to both jobs on time. I don't have family nearby. And asking friends for help feels like crossing a line I'm not ready to cross. I scroll through Instagram and see people my age traveling to Europe, getting engaged, starting businesses, buying homes. I'm genuinely happy for them, well, most of them, but it also hurts. It's a reminder of everything I put on pause. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get into graphic design. I used to sketch for hours in high school. Art made me feel free, like I could breathe a little easier. Now, the sketchpad sits in a drawer under unpaid medical bills and old tax forms. I miss dreaming without guilt. That's the hardest part, feeling like I can't afford to have hope. Every time I think about the future, I start budgeting it. Kids? That's at least $15K a year per child. A wedding? That's out of the question unless it's a courthouse thing. Even just taking a weekend off means losing income one can't replace. I cope in small ways. I write in a journal every night, even if it's just a sentence. I take long walks after work and listen to podcasts, mostly people talking about surviving capitalism or slow living, though that last one feels like a cruel joke. I drink a lot of tea. It's cheap, comforting, and makes me feel like I'm doing something kind for myself. Sometimes I fantasize about what I'd do with just a little breathing room. Not even winning the lottery, just not having to do mental math every time I swiped my card. I'd take a few months off, maybe rent a cabin and just sleep, read, cook food that takes more than 10 minutes. I'd sign up for a painting class. Maybe even fall in love and not feel like it's another bill I can't afford. But I can't afford to fantasize too long. Reality pulls me back quickly. Rent's due next week, and I'm short. Again. I'll probably sell a few more clothes online or take on an extra shift at the bookstore. I've gotten good at surviving. Not thriving, not living, just surviving. And the scariest part is, this version of life is becoming normal. I'm getting used to it. That's what keeps me up at night. Sometimes I wonder what kind of world we've built, where working full-time, hell, working more than full-time, still isn't enough to get by. Where having dreams is a privilege, not a right. Where the cost of simply existing outpaces every pay raise, every attempt to better yourself. My boss got a new Tesla last month. I couldn't even afford to fix my brake pads. Still, I haven't given up completely. I can't. I don't have that luxury either. I keep showing up. Keep budgeting, stretching, hoping that something, anything, will shift. Maybe the economy will stabilize. Maybe I'll land a higher paying job. Maybe the system will finally realize that people aren't meant to live like this. Until then, I keep moving forward. Even when it feels like running on a treadmill someone else controls. I wake up to the sound of my phone alarm vibrating against the particle board nightstand I bought from Facebook Marketplace. It's 6:30 a.m. The sun hasn't quite risen yet, and neither has my hope. I stare at the ceiling for a few minutes, letting the anxiety settle in like it does every morning, like a fog, familiar and unwelcome. Another day. Another balancing act. I'm 27. I rent a one-bedroom in a neighborhood that used to be considered up and coming before it became unaffordable. My rent went up again last month. Not by much, $120, but enough to make me rethink my grocery list, cancel my gym membership, and pray my 2012 Honda holds up for another year without needing something I can't afford to fix. I work 2 jobs. One full-time in customer support for a tech company where I spend 8 hours a day apologizing to strangers over things I didn't cause. The second is at a bar 3 nights a week, where I smile through sore feet and pick up extra cash that disappears almost as quickly as I make it. It's not that I don't try. I do. I always have. But the math doesn't work anymore. Groceries cost more. Rent eats half my paycheck. Gas, insurance, phone bill, student loans, I make lists just to remind myself what I can't afford this month. I've started cutting my own hair. I learned from YouTube. Most nights, I'm too tired to cook, so I eat what I can scrape together. Peanut butter on stale bread. Instant noodles. A hard-boiled egg if I remembered to boil some in the morning. When I do treat myself to a $5 coffee, I feel both joy and shame, like I've committed a small act of rebellion against my own budget. Some days, I skip meals without thinking. Hunger blends into the background of a life already overcrowded with stress. I used to want more. I still do, if I'm honest. I wanted to go to grad school. I wanted to travel. I wanted to start a small photography business on the side, turn a passion into something real. I imagined a little apartment with plants in every corner, the kind of space that felt alive and soft. I thought I'd have a dog by now. I thought I'd have stability. But every time I try to save, something comes up. A medical bill. A parking ticket. A roommate moving out unexpectedly. Last year I broke my wrist slipping on the ice. Missed 2 weeks of work, lost half a month's pay. That was enough to put me behind for 6 months. People say, just work harder, but what they don't understand is that I already do. There's no space between my shifts for dreaming. No mental bandwidth for ambition when survival takes every ounce of focus. I haven't taken a real day off in 8 months. I schedule my breakdowns for Sunday afternoons, when I can sit in silence with a weighted blanket and cry without needing to explain myself. I feel like I'm on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no one's willing to admit the machine is broken. Everyone around me is pretending they've figured it out, but I see the cracks. My friend Liz is drowning in credit card debt, just trying to furnish her apartment. James moved back in with his parents after losing his job. We joke about it, call it the millennial starter pack, but beneath the humor, we're scared. There's a kind of grief that comes with letting go of the life you thought you'd have. It's quiet and slow, like erosion. You don't notice it at first, but over time, the dreams start to wear down. The idea of owning a home feels like a fairy tale. Starting a family? I can't even commit to a new pair of shoes without wondering what else I'll have to sacrifice. When people ask where I see myself in 5 years, I lie. I say something vague about promotions or learning to invest, but the truth is, I just hope I'm not still holding my breath every time I check my bank account. Still, I cope. I find moments. On Thursdays, I go to the park after work and just sit. No phone. Just me and the trees and the occasional dog passing by. I make playlists of songs that remind me of who I used to be, someone full of plans. I read library books like they're lifelines. I write in a journal even when I don't know what to say, just to feel like I'm still narrating my own life, not just reacting to it. And sometimes, I hope. I hope that things shift, that we start to care more as a society about the people slipping through the cracks. I hope I find a way to do more than just survive. I think about the kid I used to be, the one who thought the world was full of possibility. I try to hold on to a piece of that kid. I owe them that much. I don't need extravagance. I'm not asking for luxury. I just want enough to breathe, enough to rest without guilt, enough to imagine a future that doesn't feel like a punishment for being born at the wrong economic time. So, yeah. I'm tired. I'm struggling. But I'm still here. I'm still trying. And for now, maybe that's enough. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.